All right. This is a video about millennial writing and gaming. So let's take a look at this, shall we? Maybe there's some good points in here.
I've noticed a trend in writing. It seems to be getting more common over time. It's a certain type of writing that I'm trying to describe. The best term I can think of to call it is millennial writing. You'll find out why. Okay, imagine this. You know those tweets that are like, capitalism low-key killed our vibe and gaslit us into being okay with our bosses and landlords taking our excess value? And then...
Yeah, I've seen these. You're not that deep, man.
And it has like 250,000 likes. I'm more so just referring to the Twitter style of speaking, the tone and affectation and vocabulary. Now, have you noticed this style of writing in modern games? I'll go through some examples to shed further light. Remember the cringe Saints Row reboot or new Tales from the Borderlands? There is
no, I actually don't know this. I don't think I've never liked Borderlands, and I did like Saints Row at first, but then it kind of went into its own crazy direction. I did play the one that had superpowers in it, and it was definitely weird.
Undeniably a certain style here. By the way, I'm using footage with credit from YouTube for these. All within fair use, because I'm sorry, but why on earth would I want to play these games? Why would you expect or even want anybody to play these games? Say what you will about Telltale movie games, Tales from the Borderlands was a very well written game, with well wrought and interesting characters. It'd be reasonable to be excited for the follow-up to that on the basis of your enjoyment of the previous one. What you may forget is that this game isn't made by Telltale, it's Gearbox, who made Borderlands 3. Borderlands 3 is an excellent example of this style as well. In fact, the gradual collapsing quality of Borderlands writing maps onto this trend really well. Borderlands 3 had excessive pop culture references, like a mission where you need to get the big suck. I can just imagine the millennial writers sitting back in their room chuckling at that, a wry grin on their
Is that supposed to be funny?
face for the new level of comedy they just unlocked. The main villains being streamers. It doesn't even say anything. It just has them as streamer cult leaders. Like, ooh, streamers are cult leaders. How so? At least have some sort of evidence of that or present a critique. None of the characters are really built up and there are no rewarding arcs. It's like the writers are entitled. They just expect that we care about these characters. The moments in the game don't carry any weight or impact.
I'm gonna let him cook. I feel like there's definitely something to what he's saying, and that's in. I kind of want to know where he's going with this.
Maya's death was so obviously avoidable and contrived. An obnoxious character like Tiny Tina was acceptable in 2012. When we didn't know any better, but they just kept riffing on the same annoying aspects of these characters without moving on. They just can't let go of these lol so random characters. Why do I care if Atlas wins this corporate war? Apparently Maliwan is an evil corporation. Corporate assholes. But so are the guys we're fighting for. And the game just presents it as good and evil. They naturally cap it off with a girl power ending, despite how poorly they resolved the conflict between Ava and Lilith, you know, the protagonists of the story, and the brain-dead reveal of Tannis being a superpower.
Oh, are they the main characters in Borderlands? I was under the impression that like those characters were like the story was about multiple characters in those games, but were the espers or whatever the psychic chicks are, were they secretly the main characters to Borderlands? This is actually news to me. This isn't a front. I actually have no idea.
powerful secret siren this whole time. And
Siren.
when they talk, they're always super verbose. They just keep talking and talking for far longer than is necessary. And if you have no clue what I'm talking about, don't worry. It's nonsense anyway. I think there's this famous post that pretty excellently sums up Borderlands writing. They can't go one line without stuffing it full of ironic observation as their form of jokes. The normal line would be like, if you can get some fuel canisters, then I can reactivate the main generator and get our shields back up. I mark the objective on your map. Versus the Gearbox line, hey buddy, great job killing those mutants and all. You're really good.
Oh my gosh. Is this legit? I feel like this might actually be taken from the game.
Good at that. Shooting things, that is. One problemo though. As it turns out, a bunch of monsters on this planet are gonna tear our eyes out if we don't get the shield back up. And this is just my opinion.
Okay. I'm not laughing because the content is funny. I'm laughing because of how like how accurate it is. And not in a good way.
Opinion, but that's gonna suck. Not having eyes sounds terrible. Like, how am I supposed to read my collection of bodacious space babes without any flippin' eyeballs? So, here's my brilliant plan that I got written on this here napkin. I won't go on. You can pause and read the rest of it, but you get the idea. Written on this here.
There's this generator thing, you following me? And it needs gas. Who knew? So maybe you can go out and fetch some canisters, and then we can get the generator running, and then the shield will go back up, and we won't have to worry, or we won't get horribly viscerally murdered. Doesn't that sound great? I know, right? So, since I did most of the work coming up with the plan, I was thinking you could do the last step and get the canisters. If you see any monsters, shoot them in the face or something. Oh, and one more thing. Try not to get killed. That'll put a wrench in this plan. Metaphorically, that is. Not literally. I hate people who misuse the term literally. It drives me figuratively insane. Anyway, I'll just be here, cowering in my bucket. Oh, bunker, my bad. While you go do that. Go team badass.
Napkin.
Oh,
I won't
boy.
go on. You can pause and read the rest of it, but you get the idea. Now, imagine everything about Borderlands 3 writing, but worse. That is Tales from the Borderlands. The worst thing about Gearbox is that they just don't get the memo. Are they addicted to sniffing their own farts or something?
I was actually going to make a similar analogy.
Why aren't they trying to improve their writing after literally everybody criticizes it?
Yeah, I totally was going to be like, this is like somebody addicted to their own self-deprecating humor, and they think it's funny.
New Agorex, who this?
They assassinate the character of Reese. In fact, he's basically a different character entirely to the one from Tales. Now he's the corporate arsehole, basically taking on the exact same role as his enemy in Tales. In Borderlands 3, there was some gag about how his favorite frozen yogurt place got destroyed.
Well, that's it. Say goodbye to your favorite Frogurt stand.
Not friends, Frogurts, anything but friends, Frogurts. I mean, they give you that.
Oh, I can just imagine it. Some 30-something with an English degree paid for by their parents whose greatest trauma, besides getting trolled on Twitter, is their favorite food place which they would visit in between sessions of making PowerPoints in their Mac shutting down. And they brought that trauma into the game. Now apparently they thought this frozen yogurt gag was so funny that they had to revive it for the next game as the basis for one of the characters, as if it was some beloved gag. So this Frogurt place is on Promethea, a fictional planet that looks remarkably like San Francisco. And of course it's very diverse. Or rather,
Oh no. No, they didn't.
it reflects the demographics of San Francisco. If the point of representation is to introduce new and different viewpoints, then this is achieving the exact opposite of that. It feels like these stories only represent the experiences of young, wealthy, inner-city tech people from the coastal cities of America, an extremely small niche, Twitter addicts.
Hey, Papa Girardi! I can smell your space calzones from here!
Ah, thanks! I need a new name for them!
Might also need to stop doing that problematic accent.
Wow. I have no words. I actually was not expecting such... How? I don't even know if I could... Can I say that that feels racist? Is that something I could say? Oh yeah, your culture is, yeah, your cultural upbringing is problematic. Huh? The layers of this is so... All right. We're gonna move on. I don't want to dwell on this.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of the references and lingo just feel out of touch.
Miss Johnson! Did you get a cybernetic leg? That thing's straight fire.
Like they're trying to be younger than they actually are. A lot of the language feels like 5 years out of date. And there's a certain character design. The shaved on one side and long hair swept on the other. The bright...
I actually hate this design. This was cool 12 years ago. It's not cool anymore. Can we put that, like, can we get a grave site and bury this hairstyle?
brightly colored hair, it's extremely common. There are also adult characters who speak like children, or just generally speak in a really condescending or patronizing tone.
While I examine this unimaginably complex and priceless alien artifact, you may wait outside and steal anything not nailed down.
There was the new Saints Row reboot as well.
What?
We knew it was going to be terrible before launch, and we weren't surprised at all. They made the main characters into a bunch of broke college kids, and they're all dealing with student debt and rent and complaining about capitalism. They try to borrow some internet lingo like wage slave. They're super verbose. They do not stop haranguing the player with dialogue, and they use expletives like they're meant to be edgy, or they're just funny on their own.
Goddamn fucking shitballs on a stick with a side order of mother-loving, shit-smothered, piss-covered ass crack!
It's like
What?
they get a kick out of swearing for no reason. Also, it's super funny that characters
Yeah.
are talking about their carbon footprint.
Your carbon footprint always matters.
So
What? What is that even supposed to mean? Oh my gosh.
relatable, am I right, fellow millennials?
Do most Americans talk like that?
People talk about that on
Like for real?
Twitter, right? They really do talk about capitalism a lot. They don't really say much about it though. They just say the word and we're supposed to think, I don't even know, like, wow, you're really culturally aware.
I like how they talk about capitalism and they don't know anything about it.
I've told you before, the idols are trying to build a post-capitalist society where money is not a concept.
The original
What?
original series started as a GTA clone and got progressively more wacky and outlandish. The humor was extremely crass. It recognized the absurdity and cranked it up as high as possible. It was self-aware before self-aware humor became really tired. They certainly did make pop culture references, but like Borderlands, this style of humor was more apt in 2012. It feels like they haven't really grown since then. They've had to tone down a lot of the most vulgar elements of the humor from previous games, which just doesn't work because vulgarity was the core of the humor in them. And again, you see the same character design, the Skrillex cut, the dyed hair. You see it in so many games, it's like they're reading from the same guidebook.
Yep.
Now,
yep.
something that feels similar, but is harder to place my finger on, is the new Wolfenstein games. The New Order was alright. Wolfenstein 2 started to introduce some weirdness, like throwing their fetishes into the game. But Youngblood is where the failure of the writing becomes really apparent. It's centered around these quirky twins who get up to silly antics in between bouts of killing people. It's strange how frivolous it is with violence. Of course, that certainly isn't a new thing, but in this game, the main characters seem to delight in it. That also isn't the weird part. It's that they delight in this violence, and there is nothing really wrong with it. They're not anti-heroes, they're just regular old protagonists. And it's just silly and fun. It's strangely flippant. I mean, the New Order wasn't like that. It did have over-the-top violence, but BJ Blazkowicz was motivated by a righteous fury and rage. He never really reveled in killing or celebrated it. There's also the loud equals funny yelling. Some of the new Wolfenstein writing just feels like the writers had some issues of their own to work on.
Balls. Why is it that balls are always used as some fucking default definition of badassery?
I don't know, can we use that in the form of a sentence? Like how? Hold on, like what is it that they're
issues of their own to work on?
She had balls of steel?
Balls. Why is it that balls are always used as some fucking default
Okay, I don't actually know why that is a thing. That is like, what is it? 2004? And I've never quite understood why that was supposed to be. Like, I never understood why it was a saying.
definition of badassery?
So I understand
like
it.
they wanted to make a political statement that they just weren't equipped to make. High on Life is another super obvious example. It has all of the same hallmarks: overly verbose characters, unnecessary swearing as if it was funny on its own. I mean, I like Michael Cusack. Damo and Darren at the train station is one of the most quoted videos here in Australia. But man, the knifey character didn't work. They had a cameo from Psychic Pebbles as well, who is usually absolutely hilarious. But in this game, I don't think the bit really worked. I noticed there's a certain vocabulary as well. It wouldn't be unusual to hear words such as weird or shitty. And it is weird that the dude who, well, you know what he did, is calling anyone shitty. This kind of dialogue is really common. I feel like High on Life could have done with an editor. Somebody to cut like 90% of the dialogue, only leaving the best stuff in. As of right now, it seems like they believe that annoying equals funny. Similarly to loud equals funny. Destiny 2 seems to have taken on some of this writing as well. And
No, not Destiny 2. Not that bastion of seriousness.
Bray is starting to sound like a Borderlands character.
My security frames are overrun. Is another example of your over-promise, under-deliver attitude.
Huh.
What?
None of that sounded like, Anna, please help me. I need you. They're killing me. Ow.
A simple yes would satisfy.
So quirky and sardonic. This type of delivery sounds condescending. It reminds me of
Yeah.
the boss from Office Space.
Yeah.
I think these are probably like the reasons why I never quite got into those games either. Like the self-awareness and the fourth wall breaking was never something that that never appealed to me. But it has to depend. Like, I don't know. Like Dragon Ball Abridged is kind of like self-aware, but like a lot of it is actually just good writing. Like actual comedians wrote it. I guess that's probably my nitpick. I don't know.
If you could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on, that would be great.
I'll be honest, I do not.
I've met that person. Not that. I've met that type of person before in real life, and they are not fun to hang around with. If that's the feeling you get, it's true.
Not see the appeal. And, you know, I can't really bring up Millennial writing without at least mentioning indie Earthbound-inspired game that's secretly about depression and mental health. These tend not to have the exact same tropes. Now that I think of it, it wouldn't be unusual to find similar stuff in indie games. It's just that people in the comments are going to bring this up if you're going to talk about Millennial games. So I think I'm starting to get a picture of it. The hallmarks of this style of writing that stick out to me from these and many more examples. The aforementioned vocabulary. Shitty, weird, gross, icky, yucky, yikes. My dude, my guy, y'all, and of course, decent human being. Another Millennial phrase I tend to hear is, the bar is on the floor. It's funny how a lot of these phrases...
Wait. Decent human being is Millennial? That's news.
They're kind of childish. I'm not sure whether they're trying to be condescending and infantilizing to others, or whether they are themselves infantilized. They so often sound passive-aggressive. Another Millennial phrase that annoys me is do better or be better. Again, talking down to you. It's insanely condescending. It just seems like a failure to grow up. A lot of the humor seems like it's from the people who've struggled to grow up since
Well, what if the people that are saying that to actually need to grow up?
2012.
Maybe I've used those terms before. I don't know, but like it's usually merited when I do say that.
It seems like they're emotionally stunted, and this is probably just me reading into it, and I see a lot of crossover with their being emotionally stunted and all of the pop culture references. It seems like some kind of identity that they're trying to cling to, that they can't let go of. I mean,
oh boy.
Fallout 2, all the way back then,
Freaking
was full of pop culture references, but I don't know, back then, being a quote-unquote nerd was kind of a subculture of its own. It wasn't really something people aimed to be, it's just a label people got slapped with for the activities and subculture they gravitated towards. It was to make fun of them. Now, nerd is like a market demographic. It seems that being a self-admitted nerd and being obsessed with pop culture is based purely around cynical consumption nowadays. And obviously nothing epitomizes this more than the Funko Pop, which is like a religious icon for millennials. The pop culture obsession.
Yeah? I mean, I don't have Funko Pops. Is Funko Pops like a telltale sign of something?
Session seems
like, can anybody tell me that? Like maybe like one or two I don't think is probably that bad. Like if from the outside in sort of perspective. Like I said, I have a giant red dragon miniature like chilling on my bookshelf right now, but that's not a Funko Pop.
seems to stem from an inability or refusal to grow up. The kinds of references that were funny in 2007 and tolerable in 2012 are just embarrassing now. There are other hallmarks, like letting you pet the doggo, because that's a Twitter account, right? Having quips everywhere that undermine dramatic moments. Having an easy mode called Tell Me a Story or Story Mode. Letting you skip bosses or parts of the gameplay.
Wait, are there games that... What's a game that does that? Where that says, tell me a story. I know I've seen it, but I don't remember. Oh, that's gonna bug me. What game has a tell me a story difficulty? Oh, it's gonna bug me. What? Do I have a game that's like probably like that? Tell me a story. No, I don't think any of the Final Fantasy games are like that. That's gonna bug me, dude. I've seen it. I've seen what he's talking about. Maybe people in the comment section after I post this can tell me.
Making the game easier if you fail too many times. I also just wanted to mention a few tweets because people speak like this on Twitter, and I think that's where it comes from. And once you see enough of this, you start to recognize this style when you see it in media. Tuesday. The day you realize that nothing can stop you, because you are a magic skeleton packed with meat and animated with electricity and imagination. You have a cave in your face full of sharp bones and 5 tentacles at the end of each arm. You can do anything, magic skeleton. Between Bernie, my ex-wife, the tenant from hell, and general chump fuckery, this has been a cromulent fuck crustable of a day. Tommy needy drinky. Kanye is a teeny weeny little baby bitch muffin. What you'll notice is the playground insults mixed with swearing, and they
one of those guys is from England.
They're talking in a baby
from the
language,
UK.
like, with these invented words that they just came up with. Beyond that, there's all the references to student debt. So relatable, am I right, fellow millennials? Ironic that the people who talk about representing broader viewpoints and life experience.
This is that, what is, what's that, was it a Saturday Night Live sketch where, Steve Buscemi is playing like an old guy, but he's dressed up as like one of the teens, like one of the teenage students, and he's like saying things like, hello fellow teenagers, can you tell me where I can get the drugs? This is what this is sounding like. It's not even projecting. It's trying to like extend like an olive branch of like understanding to like to appear relatable. That's what this is trying to do. Like rather than just tell like a compelling story, it's just like how many weird turn of the era phrases can we throw in to make the kids like the game? That's what that feels like.
seem to make the same few jokes that only appeal to a tiny group of people who are like them. Degree in English from major coastal cities of the USA. The student debt thing is also meant to be their social commentary. And that brings us to the juiciest part, the politics. A game like Saints Row keeps referencing capitalism, as if it was offering some sort of critique, but it's not really saying anything. A lot of these games seem to just reference political events or social issues because it's like they feel obliged to. They do these political things, not because they have anything to say, but because they think they have to say something. This is because of Twitter, and just social media in general, at least partly. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the complaints about how they're politicizing video games were coming to a head. We need to stop politicizing this escapist hobby. Then some Redditors from a place named Gaming Circle Jerk took these complaints and ran with them. They've been telling their singular joke for like 6 years now. Actually, Chud, games have always been political, then showing examples of old games and how they made some political statement. Every meme since then has been examples of Actually, Chud, games have always been political, then showing examples of
learn the differences. No political good. Have political bad? I don't... Is this a troll meme? Because like there are politics in these games, but the politics isn't real. Like it's not based off real, like things that are real. I mean, I don't know about the Call of Duty game, but like, and I don't see, I don't know. Maybe it's my lack of not playing these games. Oh, wait a minute. I think I understand. It's the social politics. That's what it is. Cause that's Last of Us, right? And there's a gay underage character in that game. There are gay characters all over the place. In Overwatch, I don't know that much about Apex. And I don't know why Mortal Kombat is on there. But okay. I get what they mean by politics.
Of old games and how they made some
Wait, you can't just throw a bunch of images on here. The video game shouldn't be political starting pack. Yeah, they're just games. Like these, there's nothing, I don't think there's anything political really in these games.
They made some political statement. Every meme since then has been some variant of Le Gamers.
Like their version of political, I suppose.
Le Politics? It's also paired with the statement that all art is political, and games, as art, are making a political statement, even if they don't overtly comment on anything. Saying nothing is a sign that you tacitly affirm the status quo. You aren't fighting hard.
I don't believe that, but I think he's saying that to make a point.
Hard enough against capitalism if you aren't speaking out against it. And it seems that they've reached game devs with this message. I think it's a common enough sentiment that many game devs feel obliged to say something, to make a statement about politics, even when they don't really have anything of value to say.
Nor were asked to say it.
And it shows. Oftentimes these political allegories and references to capitalism just feel phoned in, like in Saints Row. It isn't really saying anything, it's just making the references because I guess it looks like that's what people want when you look at social media. Am I right? Do my moots on the Bird app agree with this? We talk about this all the time, same with Borderlands. It's maybe trying to make a statement about evil corporations.
Corporate asshat.
But you fight for corporations the whole time. And I just want to take...
Yeah, I think that's by design. They hate the thing that they work for.
A moment to compare the capital P politics in games versus how old games would present political issues. In all those older games, it was more of an idea that was presented. It was often aware of the nuance, and it didn't force your opinion on the matter. It'd perhaps present you with a choice and an ethical quandary to bring you to question your own beliefs. It respected the player's intelligence. Of course, the writers of those games had intent. They would frame things in such a way that it made their ideology seem favorable, but it'd never force your hand.
Right. Because an old comedian by the name of Norm Macdonald, the good guys, apparently the good guys won all of the wars. Who knew, right? Go good guys.
And it never felt like they were trying to force any message. The political message that could be gleaned from the game arises naturally as a result of the setting. Contrary to what Redditors claim, Fallout was not created as a political allegory. It was.
So, Grand Theft Auto 5, while the world we live in is superficial and corrupt, human greed has ruined this planet, and the only thing keeping us from being corrupt ourselves is our friends and family. Okay. California freaking sucks. Living in California freaking sucks. Unchecked corporate power and consumerism will not only be the death of our society, but also our very individuality. Living in California freaking sucks. War is humanity's greatest sin, and we are doomed to partake in it for eternity, for it never changes. Yeah.
As a political allegory. It was, first of all, a dumb, absurdly violent, ridiculously bleak game with crazy guns and mutants. There were, of course, ethical quandaries and political dilemmas presented as part of the setting.
Yep, that is true. Fallout had a lot of scenarios that pushed people's moral limits. Like it put them in a lot of like really bad scenarios. And that's good. I think that's good design.
That could be applied to the contemporary world. It never portrayed communism favorably. It didn't really say much of anything about it. It was mostly focused on America and American culture. And any of the critiques rose out of that setting. Now compare it to the politics in current games. It often feels like a cynical reference to current thing. It's often things which do not suit the setting. It never explores any ideas in depth. It simply tells you things, rather than presenting something and allowing you to think about it. I think that's the crux of it. It's about respecting the player's intelligence, allowing you to work things out on your own, to choose for yourself, to come to your own conclusion. Of course, we can't have people making their own choice nowadays. They might make the wrong one. I think condescending sums it up perfectly. They think you're stupid. They're also kind of pretentious. A lot of this political writing presents the most basic opinions and acts like you've never heard them before, like they just blew your mind, like it's something revolutionary. Now, why did millennial writing rise in the first place? I legitimately think it is Twitter. Look, for a business's continued survival, it needs to adapt constantly. When you stop growing, you start dying. So you need to look at current trends. What is an easy way to see current trends? Why? The way everyone communicates. Social media. I think that writers, devs, and producers are getting their idea of what constitutes current trends from Twitter, which I think is really misguided, for the simple fact that Twitter does not represent broader society. Most of what you'll hear on Twitter comes from a very small, very vocal minority. And hey,
hold up. We're almost done. Where'd it go?
Misguided, for the simple fact that Twitter does not represent broader society. Most of what you'll hear on Twitter comes from a very
US adult Twitter users are younger and are more likely to be Democrats. Ooh, I wasn't expecting this. Than the general public. Most users rarely tweet, but the most prolific 10% creates 80% of the tweets for adult. Okay, so it's basically saying like the minority group is the one that is making the bulk of the content on the platform. It's basically what they're saying.
Very small, very
I don't know why like they need to put American political parties as a thing.
Vocal minority. And hey, for a while the FBI was basically deciding who is and isn't allowed to have a voice on that side. I think that producers should look elsewhere to get an idea of broader society, somewhere besides social media. It only elevates fringe voices. I guess this does kind of destroy the whole argument that Twitter is just a private company which doesn't really control much of public discourse. Twitter, for a private company, holds an extreme amount of power over public.
I'm sorry, I'm watching this gameplay and it looks awful. This does not look fun to me.
It's the same with every social media site. I have to say, it was pretty funny to me seeing Unishek, the community manager for Halo Infinite, borrow some of the cynical and condescending language from gaming circle jerk, only to get screenshotted and roasted on the site himself. It was hilarious to see that backfire, I will admit. So, in all, I guess the advice I'd give to producers is the same advice I'd give to everybody. Unplug. Shut off social media for a bit. Live in the real world. And don't be so condescending. And get to the point. Please subscribe. Thank you all so very much for watching. And goodbye. You can do anything, Magic Skeleton.
Oh boy.
She's like a religious icon for millennials. The pop...
He's having a laugh.
This has been a cromulent fuck crustable of a day.
The irony is funny.
Tommy Needy Drinky.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of really good points in this one. I'm gonna link this one. This was fun. This is from the ShreddedNerd. Yeah, you made some really good points, man. I actually agree with it a lot. It's really interesting.